Hey everyone, my name is Michael Stewart and I am an alcoholic. And welcome to the first installment of the Sober Hour podcast, where we talk all things recovery, where we are right now in recovery, and how we continue to stay sober. Today I have my good friend Cameron here to talk about his experience, strength, and hope, and I hope you guys get something out of it today. Now, without further ado, here's Cameron. None of that just happened.
I'm going to bring it up so it's less weird. Are we rolling?
Yeah, man. So, welcome, Cameron.
What's up, man?
Yeah. So, I wouldn't want anyone else to be the first guest I've had. So far, this is the Sober Hour podcast, where we talk all things recovery and, just where our lives are after getting sober and kicking the damn thing, Me and Cameron met in at Recovery Centers of America in Waldorf, Maryland. And been friends ever since, became close friends in there. We kind of ran that shit in there for a little bit,
We ran
dude.
shit for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. We were the journalist people. We were defense attorneys and all that stuff in there.
The best defense attorneys.
Yeah, the best.
I mean,
He's doing some hard time now.
Oh,
some
yeah.
real hard time.
absolutely.
We'll explain that.
Undefeated, baby.
Yeah, so, yeah, man, welcome again. And just so you guys know, we did record like 15 minutes of his story, and we have his beautiful dog Millie here, who likes to play little pranks on us and unplugged everything.
We missed like 10 minutes worth of
Yeah.
footage.
So he's going to tell a story again, and it's going to be great because it's the first time you hearing it, and I have to hear it again, unfortunately.
probably
but-
condense
I'm
it.
just kidding.
Now that I've realized how long I was rambling for.
But yeah, man, tell me a little bit about your story, your background, how you got into all the shit that you just told me, and floor is
All
yours,
right,
brother.
Let me. I'm gonna condense it, and make it not nearly as long. So, I grew up in a very unproblematic household, loving, supportive parents, up until this day, and it's one of those things of being in private school for most of your life, and then going to public school, and then finally getting that taste of freedom, and then especially going to college. I went down to Richmond, VCU, went there for 2 years, and I did not care about college at all. All I did was party, and I basically more or less failed out. Also could not afford to send myself to school anymore. And what's the point of trying to, taking out loans and sending yourself to school just to fail out?
Right.
Dropped out after 2 years, stayed in Richmond, and partied my ass off. And then couldn't afford to live down there. Moved up to Northern Virginia with my parents. That's what happens when you just fall off and just start doing drugs and drinking too much, and you just end up back at your parents' house. And that's exactly what I did, except I kept partying when I moved back home. I got a job with the company I work for now. I started making big boy money, and I thought that guys that make big boy money party like guys that make big boy money.
Like Wolf of Wall Street.
Like Wolf of Wall Street, yeah. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure that was around the time when Wolf of Wall Street came out.
I think it changed a lot of people's lives.
It did, and for the worse, like, by far. Because, I think it was around that time. And I'm not like a, cult follower of, like, that movie by any means. But I just remember, like, thinking, like, all right, these guys make big money and they do tons of coke.
Yeah.
And it's what makes them keep making good money. And it did for me, except I wasn't making enough money to where the money I was spending on drugs, kind of, like, superseded the amount of money I was making. So I told you earlier, I made just under $90,000 in 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. And I went into the new year overdrafted because I was spending that much money. And, it got pretty bad. I had maybe 2 or 3 different times where I had seizures because I wasn't sleeping, because I was up all night partying. Not really drinking like I was, when I went to RCA, but I was partying. And, my parents had an idea of what was going on. I mean, you don't get home at 4 a.m. on Tuesdays for, like, no reason.
Right.
And eventually had just a really, really bad Mother's Day where I was probably withdrawing off cocaine, in a terrible mood, hungover, and I more or less ruined that Mother's Day just with being hungover and having an attitude, snapping at everyone. And at that moment, I decided I'm never doing cocaine ever again. And I did. I mean, to this year, I'd celebrated 5 years when I was actually in rehab.
Funny enough.
Yeah, because that was Mother's Day in the middle of my 30 days.
Oh, that's right.
And so kicked that and figured, drinking is legal. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with a little drinking. I'm 22 at the time. And over the years, it just really got away from me. I used it as a crutch. I was always going out. I mean, when you're in your early to mid-20s, I mean, that's all there is to do. And I mean, fuck it. Let's say late 20s, too.
Honestly, it's pretty much the only thing you can do.
I mean, I think realistically, once you're 21, that's really all there is to do.
Yeah, like because me and Ashley, we'll go travel. We went to Philadelphia not too long ago, and it was like I was looking up things to do, and obviously you go get a Philly cheesesteak, sightsee, and but all of it was just pubs and bars.
Yeah,
which is cool to see. I mean, but at the end of the day, it was like I'm not gonna go to a pub or a bar.
Vacations are weird, man.
Yeah,
vacations. Because I went out to Phoenix with my family, and yeah, we were just strapped for finding. I mean, we saw the Grand Canyon, and we rode a hot air balloon, and then after that, we're just like, all right, what the hell do we do?
Right.
I mean, you Google anything, it's just like go to downtown Scottsdale and check out all these bars. There's not a lot to do outside of drinking.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to fall into that lifestyle, which is exactly what I did. Basically any social interaction, you're going to be somewhere where it serves alcohol, more or less. And it just got away from me over time. I think one of the main reasons one of the easiest ways to fall into alcoholism is hair of the dog.
Yeah.
As soon as you find out that if you keep drinking, you don't get hungover, that's when it just gets away from you. And I found that out earlier probably than I should have.
Right.
I just remember Sunday fun day became a thing. And, you go out and party all night on a Saturday, you wake up Sunday and you're like, maybe if I choke down like 2 or 3 tequila shots, I'll feel better. And then look at that. You do feel better.
Right.
And then that bleeds into Monday and then Tuesday. And then what do you know? You're doing it every single day.
Right.
And that's exactly what it turned into. And, I was drinking to feel better when in reality I was literally just killing myself with alcohol. And it got to a point where more or less every single night, alcohol turns into sugar in your system. So you drink all night and then you go to sleep and then you wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, wide awake. And, I'd wake up almost every single night with heart palpitations and, sweating straight through my clothes.
Yep.
I mean, literally withdrawing 3 to 4 hours after my last drink. Wake up in the middle of the night, I'd rip down like 3 or 4 shots just to fall back asleep.
Yeah.
And even then, it's more just tossing and turning. And it was just something I was just used to at that point. And it was, earlier this year in April, I decided that, because I had detoxed myself a little bit, like plenty of times, but after a while, detoxing on your own is just so hard to do because you start drinking a little bit to, make yourself not feel so awful. And then you're just like, well, this is great. I'm just going to keep drinking.
Yeah. There's always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow. And tomorrow never, ever comes.
No.
So I decided that I was going to start detoxing. And instead of drinking liquor all day, I was drinking like White Claws or something like that. And I guess I hadn't had enough to drink that day. I mean, I didn't feel awful, but that it doesn't matter when it comes to alcoholism. So I was home from work. I got home from work, and then maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, I'm upstairs heating up the stove to grill or to cook some dinner. And then I came to with paramedics standing over me in the kitchen. And no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what year it was. I mean, they're asking me who the president was. I'm like, I think Obama. I mean, dude, you come out of a seizure, you have no idea what's going on. It's gnarly. And it wasn't my first seizure. I mean, shit, dude, I probably had 5 or 6 before then, and all from drug or alcohol withdrawals. And I was like, what's going on? They said you had a seizure. And I was like, are you joking me? And they're like, no. So they took me to the hospital. Of course, the hospital called like my emergency contact, which I think I had my sister at the time because I didn't want my mom to know. I was going to the ER like once every like 2 or 3 months. Because I was having such gnarly heart palpitations that I just, you wake up and you're already like feeling weird. You just Google anything to do with heart, and it's just like you start panicking. I just every single night I woke up, I was just like, "Yep, this is it. I'm having
I have
congestive
5
heart
minutes
failure."
until I'm dead.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, you Google anything, and it just like they're just like, "Yeah, you're definitely dying."
Yeah. This is it for you.
And I would believe it every single time. So I was going to the ER like once every like month or two, middle of the night, just thinking like I'm dying, and they're just like, "Dude, no, you just need to stop drinking like how you're drinking." Because I was honest in the ER. They'd be like, "How much do you drink?" And I'm like, 15 to 20 drinks a day,
Yeah.
minimum. And they're like, "Yeah, man, like that's your problem.
Yeah.
Like you keep coming in here, but it's like you just need to stop drinking." And so I think I had my sister because I didn't want my parents to be worried about me, even though they absolutely should be worried about me.
Mm-hmm. And they probably were.
They were.
had to have known.
They're not
some
idiots.
shit was
I mean,
going on,
my
yeah.
mom and dad still have like a bank account connected to mine. Not anymore, but they did at the time. And it's not it's not even like they would give me money. Like it was like that. Like when I was in college, they would send me money every once in a while. But I didn't realize. But my mom was seeing me like drop $40 at ABC store every single day.
Yeah.
So she was well aware, but also too scared to confront me about it because she probably knew I'd react all defensively and whatnot.
You know, I don't have my parents on my account, but I was so, I guess, hesitant for anyone to find out. So I would go to the grocery store and buy like
Cashback.
get like a thing of bananas.
Yep.
And get like $40 back.
Yeah.
You know, just so no one can see anything, just see that I spent $45 at a
I didn't even care. You know,
Yeah.
at that point I was just like whatever. And even if I remember my mom asking me about it one time, and I was just like I had to like, stock up like the bar card at like my buddy's place, and he's just paid me back in cash or whatever. But she knew. you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't. I had my sister as my emergency contact. Obviously, they called her. So my sister and her boyfriend came into the ER, and they were just kind of like hanging out with me, and I was just like, oh god, like once again I'm back in the ER, just like joking around, like not even taking it seriously. And I guess I thought I had taken a nap. I came to, and there's another doctor standing over me, and he was like, "You just had another seizure, buddy." So my sister and her boyfriend had to sit there and watch me have a seizure in the ER.
It's crazy.
I stayed overnight. They were like, "You need a medical detox. I mean, if you're seizing out like this, then you can't just stop
home.
drinking. I mean, you can't just go home. Like, this is what kills people." So I stayed overnight. My mom came down, and I mean, I just gave up at that point. I was just like, I want to go door to door to rehab. I can't do this on my own.
Now, did you have thoughts of quitting before all that shit happened?
Dude, I mean,
Did you
I
wanna
wanted
quit?
to
Yeah.
every single day, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every single day I would be like, all right, this is the last day. And then like by like noon, I was already stopping at 7-Eleven getting something to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally for probably the last 6 months before I went into rehab, I was just like, yeah, this will be the last day, or like I'll cool down after this. I never made it a full 24 hours.
I remember one week I was able to have, like, somehow taper off.
Yeah.
Where I was like, all right, I take 10 shots a day,
Mhm.
so tomorrow I'm only going to take 8.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, I got to 6, and I accidentally took 8 again. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
well, tomorrow I'm only having 7. You
Mhm.
know, it never gets to the point where you're...
Exactly.
and it's super dangerous, dude.
Yeah.
If you just try and stop like that,
Yeah.
you can pretty much go with what you just went through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, think about it, man. That happened maybe 10 minutes after I got home from work. If that happened 15 minutes earlier, I would have been going 80 miles an hour on I-95.
Yeah, seriously.
I would have killed myself and several other people.
Yeah.
And that's actually not the first time that I'd had a seizure behind the wheel. I had another one when I was doing cocaine, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, up in Laurel, Maryland. I was just overworked and using coke to stay awake and just keep getting through the day. And I was getting those brain zaps all day. Just I would get to the back of my van and forget what key I was even grabbing. And then I came to somebody banging on the window. I drove off of a bridge and into a creek.
Holy shit.
Mhm.
Damn.
Yeah, but another situation where if it happened 15 minutes earlier, I would have been on I-95 going another 80 miles an hour. So the big man upstairs has always been looking out for me.
There's a reason why you
There's a reason why.
survived
I mean,
this
both
stuff,
of those seizures either could have been, lethal or, it was all a matter of time before, it was more of a wake-up call than, me dying.
Yeah.
Which is scary to think about. But, yeah, I mean, I surrendered earlier this year in April, where I was just like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I mean, there's no way I can get sober on my own. I've tried. It's never going to happen. Even if like I took nothing out of being in rehab, just getting the 30 days without any alcohol in and of itself would have been a huge win for me.
Yeah.
Thank God I actually listened when I was in there.
For sure, man.
You know?
Man, he's right. I mean, you can't be sober on your own. You can't do this alone. This is a we program. And for a lot of us, you don't really realize that until you really dive knee deep in what recovery really is. And that's going to meetings, getting a sponsor, and being as active as possible in your fellowship. Now, for me, when I tried on my own, it was nearly impossible. I felt like no one understood me, and no one will understand me. And as soon as I finally reached out to somebody and got the help that I deserved and needed, man, the sky felt like it was the limit. And the sky seems to be never ending. It seems to always constantly be giving me new avenues just to continuously better myself day in and day out. Man, recovery is awesome. Let's hear more from Cameron.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So going to RCA, I mean, for anyone is kind of a mind fuck. You don't really know
Dude.
what to do because you're 26, right?
Just turned 27 last week.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man.
Damn. Yeah, so I turned 27 in this coming May.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, for me going into rehab, it was really tough because I felt like I didn't lose enough yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have the DUIs. I had the seizures like you did.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I needed help.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was, like you said, thank God you listened. You know, what was a big thing that you took from rehab just in general?
I'll tell you the best piece of advice that I ever got in rehab was 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Immediately. I mean, as much as it sucks, you're going to hate it, dude. Like, you're going to have a long day at work, and you're going to have to go to a meeting where you're the youngest by, like, 30 years.
Always.
But just being in that room, I mean, you could not even be listening, man. But just going and being in that room, the consistency of it, instead of just sitting at home thinking about, oh, man, like, this sucks, you know. 90 meetings in 90 days was, like, probably the main reason I'm still sober.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's really I have to give it up to that. Spirituality as well. I mean, you have to trust that there's a big man upstairs looking out for you, because there is.
Yeah. Did you have a relationship with him before
so I was
came in?
raised in like a pretty like Christian Baptist household.
Okay.
So I've always had like relationship with God. Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really have a close relationship, but it's definitely gotten closer since then. I mean, dude, he's the reason I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, given what you just told me, there's got to be a reason why you're here, man.
He's given me way too many chances.
Yeah. I mean, I think for most of us, there's times where you look back and you're like, how the hell did I even get? I mean, I used to drive, the guys didn't know when I was in the band, but I used to drive over state lines, fucking lit, you know?
Dude, I drive for a living.
Yeah, exactly.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
But, like, dude, but here's the thing. Like, when you get into alcoholism to that point, like you said, like, we never reached, like, that rock bottom that, like, forces people into rehab where you lose like, you tell your family to fuck off, or, like, you get a DUI or you end up in jail. That never happened. So I was such a high-functioning alcoholic that it made it so hard for me to get sober, because I'm just, like, I'm not, like, breaking relationships or, losing my job or anything like that. I was very high functioning. I mean, went to work every single day. Like, I barely ever call off, ever. So that's what kept me drunk for so long, is just being so high functioning.
Yeah.
It's just easy, It's like if you're still working and doing whatever needs to be done, it's easy to just stay drunk because you don't have much of a reason to get sober. I mean, obviously you do, but you don't think you do, because
you
bills are paid.
You feel like I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Exactly.
Yeah. The biggest thing I learned, because of that, because I felt the same way. I was like, dude, I'm not I knew I was an alcoholic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, but I was like, I'm able to hide it. I can kind of handle it on stage. I can do this. I can do that. But it wasn't until I got into rehab that I realized the yet scale. You know, a lot of people have those yets where they hit the DUI, the shitty relationship, whatever may have you on that yet scale. But we were just 2 months away, if that, to hitting those scales.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we were going to hit those not yets very quickly.
Yeah, and like, that's I remember, like, people, like, telling me about how they got DUIs and they were, like, all embarrassed, and I'd be like, dude, the only difference between me and you is I just haven't gotten caught yet.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I'm no better than you because I don't have a DUI.
Yeah, and before I came into rehab, I had that seizure, and and my whole family just thought it was like some type of brain thing.
Yeah.
So but legally, apparently, if you have a seizure, you're not supposed to drive for 3 months.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So the 3 months, those last 3 months were horrible because I
Yeah.
didn't have to drive. You know, I was like, dude, I got this shit. Like, people drive me places. I can, like, nap it off if it's
Yeah.
more than a 30-minute drive.
Yeah,
dude,
this
this
is dope.
is great, you
Yeah.
know?
You got a good
So,
setup.
but if I were to drive, I'm sure I would have had a DUI
Oh, yeah.
easily in
Mhm.
those last few months, dude.
Mhm.
Easily.
Yeah.
Which I know when I was with the band, it had to suck for them because it was like we had like a 10-hour drive or something. And they're like, well, I guess it's just us two driving, huh? And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, sorry, I still can't drive, guys, you know? But
Oh yeah.
which kind of worked out in my favor in a shitty way, you
Yeah,
know? Because to
that's
them,
true.
they just thought it was because of the seizure, which it was.
Yeah.
But I was in no condition to start driving again anyways,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, that happened to me. I mean, when I had the seizure and I drove into a creek, I had to work in the office for a year.
Yeah.
The girl in the office told insurance that I had a seizure behind the wheel, and they dropped me immediately. And luckily, I work for a small business, and they just look out for you. So they found work for me in the office. Dude, yeah.
Yeah, because to them,
Never
they're
again.
not thinking, oh, it was because of coke. They just think that you had a seizure.
Yeah, they just think
Yeah.
something happened, but which is also, I mean, still, like, yeah, I really wish she never told insurance that, because it didn't happen behind the wheel ever again, but it could have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it took me off the road for a year, which sucked, but
It sucks because when I had my seizure, it was in the middle of a TJ Maxx.
I remember the story.
And dude, when I got there and I figured out I had a seizure, I knew exactly why I had a seizure.
Withdrawal.
But
Yeah.
my family had no clue.
So
Because-
they thought it was some freak accident.
yeah, for the most part, because my dad, he's had 2 brain tumors in his life.
Oh,
So that's kind of a genetic thing that I guess they still don't know what causes them, but they thought maybe I had something going on in my brain, or I had epilepsy or whatever. So in this hospital room, this lady comes in, who's like basically like the college scout for alcoholics, you know,
Mhm.
like she was looking
She
for,
knew what
she
was
wanted
going
a D1 athlete to go to these rehabs for
Yeah.
people, you know. And so she was looking at me and she was like, how much do you drink? And I would, you know, the
You always
typical,
lie.
you know, a little bit, you
a
know.
little too much, like 4 or 5. in a
Yeah,
day.
some nights a little more than others, but you know. And she is telling me all about these rehabs and what I can do, and I was actually really considering doing it soon
Mhm.
anyways, and she was telling me everything I need to hear. Meanwhile, my family, like my girlfriend and my mom, are sitting there so pissed at this lady.
Because
like-
they think that she's full of shit.
Yeah, she's like, how dare you come in here and tell my
It's-
son he's an alcoholic? Like, who the hell do you think you are? And I'm sitting there like, this
No,
is probably
she's
not the
right.
best time to be like, guys, this woman that you guys hate right now is actually
absolutely
yeah,
right.
she's saying everything I've been needing to hear for the last 6 months. So obviously, I just continued drinking until the next. I didn't have a seizure, but I was basically a step away from psychosis, which I
So-
think I've told you
So
before.
what
But
made you? Was there like an event that made you go straight into RCA?
kinda, yeah. So basically, what really happened the last, I guess, couple days, my girlfriend Ashley, she found all my hiding spots.
Oh,
I-
like all the liquor and stuff.
Yeah, of course they're all empty.
Yeah.
But there were spots that I didn't even know I hid them in, and I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
what? How like I'm so smart. I didn't even think of that
Oh,
place,
yeah.
but I guess I did when I was drunk. But I was so drunk at the time that when she was showing, like she had a bag, like 2 grocery bags full,
Mhm.
and was like, "Can you explain this?" And I was just like, "I don't know what to say. Like those are old." I was coming up with all these stories,
Yeah.
and like I was so drunk that my stories weren't making sense. So
Of course not.
she took it upon herself to go to the the basement table and lay them all out, like as if she caught like El Chapo and
Mhm.
was putting like the drugs and the guns, but it was all
Yep.
just the bottles. Took a picture of it, sent it to my family, and the next day,
She sent it to your family.
yeah, she sent it to my sister. I think
That's
more,
tough.
yeah, because at that point everyone was kind of figuring out this is what was going on,
Yeah.
and so then the next day, she had her bags packed and she left, and she had the last bottle of whatever alcohol I had left. Like she went through the whole house and got rid of everything. And the sad shit was that I was so upset that she was leaving, but I was even more upset that she was taking the last bit of alcohol that I
Yeah.
paused, because I knew I was gonna start withdrawing.
Yep.
It was horrible, dude. And so that night, I knew my grandma, as I showed you, lives right across the yard, and she always has alcohol.
Yeah.
But she's not a drinker. She just, people give her bottles, whatever.
Mhm.
So I knew she had it. So I snuck over there. My mom freaked out, and I only went over there mainly to drink her alcohol, her vodka or whatever. Next day, after that morning, kept drinking without them knowing. Then I woke up to Ashley back, and for the first 15 minutes, I had no idea who she was.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, "You know who I am?" And I kept saying, "Yeah," because I was embarrassed.
Wait. Oh, so you were that wasted?
Because I drank that morning and just passed out.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if it was like I was drunk and kind of starting to lose it a little bit. Because there were times where I would forget a lot of shit all of a sudden, like out of nowhere.
I barely remember most of my mid-20s.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And so these cops come in. They called the cops, and they were like, "We need to take you to the hospital." And they were like, "Do you think you need an ambulance, or can your parents just drive you?" I was like, "Please, just have your parents drive me." And of course, as this cop is asking me these questions, my best friend, since we were like 10, he was like, "Hey, do you know Will Levy, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, he's a good friend of mine." And we told him that this was going on and stuff. And I was like, "Why the fuck?" At first, I thought he was gonna say he's on his way here or something.
Yeah.
That would have been embarrassed because he's a cop as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But I got to the hospital, and this guy comes in. They didn't even put me on, wires or anything. This guy comes in, and if I remember correctly, he was like, "How old are you?" And I said, I'm 25 at the time. I was about to turn 26, and he said, "My son died at 26 from heroin and alcohol, and you're close to being that age and all this stuff." And then just leaves. He just leaves me that information, and I'm sitting there like, fuck, and my family is sitting there looking at me. And I was like, I need to go, and I live 10 minutes from RCA, so
Yeah.
that was the only place I knew. And we got there just hoping they had a bed, and thank God they did.
They did.
And I got there, and my roommate was withdrawing from benzos, and he was in detox for 12 days before he just AMA'd.
Jeez.
But when I got there, it was like day 9, and he was losing his fucking mind,
I believe
dude.
it, dude.
I couldn't turn the TV up loud enough, man. He was like screaming in his sleep, like,
Really?
dude. It was scary.
See, I had young Josh as a roommate, so
Yeah.
he was chill. He just slept. He just slept all day, every day.
Yeah, Josh is the shit. But yeah, man. So that's kind of how I got in there. And once you were in there, man, you're like, you kind of just sit around and look and be like, this is really what I'm doing. I'm really in rehab now.
Yeah.
Like, and you can leave anytime you really want. Like, if you really wanted to leave, you could. But there was no thought of that for me.
No thought at all.
No.
I knew I needed to get through it. I mean, I didn't even really want to leave at any point. I mean, I probably would have wanted to leave if I didn't make buddies.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty tough. I mean, just being alone the whole time. But once I started making friends and everybody that I was friends with was actually taking it seriously, it made it so much easier to get through.
Yeah. And
But
I tell people all the time that are in rehab, 'cause I go and speak there a lot, and I tell them, you have to make friends.
You have to.
You have to meet every single person,
Mhm.
because you guys are going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together.
Yeah.
You're going to have meetings together every single day.
You'll be miserable without
yeah,
it.
and you're not just going to sit in your room, watch fucking MASH, because that's the only thing on during the day.
Oh, yeah, that.
And then smoke cigarettes and then go back to your room after you eat. You're getting nothing out of
I'll
this.
tell you what, most people I know that did do that came right back.
I know.
I mean, dude, my roommate,
Yeah.
what was his name? Older guy, Neil.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He apparently came back a week later.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with just the fact that he was just showing up to what he needed to, and then just came right back.
Yeah.
And granted, I didn't go to every single meeting throughout every single day.
It's almost impossible.
I mean,
honestly.
yeah, you can, but man, it's exhausting. It's just too much. So, I mean, obviously you skip out on some, but you really just gotta go to the things that you feel like you resonate with a lot.
Yeah.
Which is what I did, and I never really had any thought of I need to get out of here.
No.
No, if anything, I was I need to be in here.
Yeah, because like you mentioned before, I think I relate to this, is that a lot of the reason why I drank so much was just, for me, it was just the fear of withdrawal. I was terrified.
A lot of it was that.
I would just drink. I would have I was like a mathematician. I had to have a certain amount of drinks every hour, every 2 hours, just to make sure, because you do that Googling thing, how soon can you hit withdrawals? And one person says it can be 5 hours. One person can say it's 5 minutes and you can have a seizure.
Yeah.
So you're thinking like, all right, I got to keep X amount of drinks in me to feel normal and not have
Mhm.
withdrawals. And being in rehab, I was able to withdraw without the anxiety of like I could potentially die,
Yeah.
which that is
100%.
obviously the case. But they're medically detoxing you. They're checking on you every 20 seconds. It seems like,
Mhm.
which sucks when you're withdrawing. They're in your room
Yeah.
scanning your damn little badge every,
God,
you
dude.
know. But I enjoyed that. Like I love the fact that they
Because
did
you felt
that.
safe.
Felt safe,
Yeah.
and it was just nice to see this. Like even though they probably hated their damn jobs, it kind of felt like you were cared about in a way. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even though you're just another patient, like it did feel like they were there for you.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that another big reason that I stayed drunk is I was so scared of withdrawing.
Yeah.
And I knew because I think I did try to quit cold turkey, maybe about a year or two before I went to RCA. And it was after a weekend where I went through like 2 full handles of Tito's, like just more or less to myself, in like 2.5 days.
Jesus.
And I remember I tried just quitting cold turkey, and that was before I had realized the dangers of quitting cold turkey.
Yeah.
Especially if a bender like that. And I mean, I remember it was just like diarrhea. It felt like I wrote like a whole note like in my notepad just in case like I died, because I mean, dude, it felt like every single part of my like whole torso was just like being ripped to shreds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is the worst feeling in the world.
It's almost like you feel your liver and your kidneys shutting
You feel
down.
your whole body shutting down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like a constant migraine from the minute you wake up till you pass out.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and I just remembered, like, I think that stuck with me, and I was just like, I can't go through that again.
No.
And also just knowing, I mean, the scariest thing is knowing that it is the only drug in the world that withdrawal can kill you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
well,
you know,
benzos as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not like, it's not like heroin or Xanax where you're just like, I'm just going to have diarrhea and be vomiting for like a couple days and then I'll just be all right. But like, no, I mean, when you think, it's alcohol, especially with how we were drinking, I mean, yeah, it's easy to die from that.
Yeah.
So just the thought of knowing that like, oh, I could die from this, I was just like, I'm not even going to risk it. I'm just going to stay drunk.
Yeah.
Or try to stay drunk enough to not die.
That's the thing, man, because I don't personally like to compare drugs of choices because everything has its price. Like alcohol, you can kind of open up a bottle and know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And obviously if you drink 2 handles in a day, you're probably going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
But people that do like heroin or coke, especially now with the fentanyl shit,
They have no idea.
that first hit could be their last, or the first injection.
Yep.
But knowing that you can potentially die from withdrawal is the most terrifying thing.
Yeah.
Being in like fucking rehab, dude. Because for me, the 3rd day was the worst.
Really?
3rd and 4th day. The 4th day wasn't as bad, but the 3rd day, dude, I thought I was like playing patty cake with the devil.
Really?
Like, dude, I was so close to just like fucking giving up.
Were you feeling pretty spaced out? That's what would scare me, is like when I felt like I couldn't even focus on anything.
No, I didn't have any of that. The first 3 days, I pretty much was paying rent for their bathroom for sure. So I was in the bathroom a lot, and then the anxiety, I was just having panic attacks at all times.
Yeah.
And it was just because it was a new place, and I'm looking at these people that outside of rehab I probably would have never talked to in my entire. Yeah, there's people that I'm just like, how am I so close to you like already? And that's kind of the most beautiful thing about this. Like, if you can look at the positive sides of what we go through, it's like no matter who you meet in recovery, you don't even have to say a word, and you already know that person better than anyone in this entire world.
And you realize that it's not even just, people that are in their 20s that let party and get away with them. I mean, you show up to any AA, and it's like an 80-year-old Chinese woman and then like a 40-year-old single dad, and a kid like me and you. I mean, it's everyone.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh, okay, like other people that aren't even remotely similar to me in any way also struggle with the same issues that I struggle with.
Because we all have the same common denominator, which is just stay fucking sober.
Yeah.
And we all are alcoholics, addicts, and we all have been in a situation like, I remember when I was in rehab, when I first got there, I thought I was unique. I thought I had the craziest story. Like, I know no one in here is a musician that was so fucked up, couldn't play music. And, you sit there and tell yourself these things until you start hearing other people's stories, and you're like, okay, I can't compare my story to anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, dude. I thought that, like, I mean, I remember going in there and being like, dude, I'm like polishing off like a 1 liter of like Tito's a day. I mean, I'm like 5 shots in by like 9 in the morning. No one's nearly as much of an alcoholic as me. Then I got in there and I was like, damn, I'm on some bush league shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't
I'm hearing
realize.
BCA levels, and I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. People are like, yeah, I blew like a 0.45. I'm like, Jesus, that's like coma level.
I know. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh yeah, and I was like chilling at that level. Like,
Yeah, I
all
was
day,
I was
every day.
able to tell you my address and everything. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, but
Unreal.
that's the crazy thing is that once your body gets so used to it, there's nothing stopping.
And then it relies on it.
It relies on it. It expects it. You know,
Yeah.
like there's no food in your system. All it wants is alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And when you would eat, it would just be gone
Yep.
immediately.
Yep.
You know, yeah, man. It's pretty empowering knowing that the people that we went to rehab with, 90% of them are all still doing really well.
It's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's better. I mean, the odds are stacked against us. As soon as you get sober, it's what 80% in 90 days or something like
Yeah.
that. Get relapse, and I don't know if that's the right number, which I hate looking at statistics, but it is
Yeah.
the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the 90 and 90 is so important.
It's so, dude.
Everything of in that nature
90
is
and
so
90
important.
is so important.
Yeah,
It's just sticking to it, because once you're out there, you're out there.
yeah,
I remember like getting out like the first day, and I was just like, oh wow, like I have like the freedom to do whatever I want,
yeah,
and it's scary.
yeah,
'Cause there's like some level of comfort when you're in there, just knowing that even if you wanted to, you couldn't.
yeah.
You
And
know?
then you always had, you could be walking down the hallway and be like, I'm feeling weird, and someone will talk to you,
yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
once you leave that safe bubble,
Mhm.
and they kind of just like flick you out, and they're like, all right, good luck, dude.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty terrifying, dude.
It
It's so
absolutely
terrifying.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like once you're out there, it's like I hope you listened,
Yeah.
because you're out in the real world again, where you
It's
can
c-
make mistakes all day.
It's crazy too, man, because when I speak at RCA, there's some people that complain about, not necessarily complaining, but there's people that have like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, and it's like kind of getting stagnant with these classes, you know, because they say the same thing over and over again.
It
and
is
stuff.
repetitive.
And I was like, yeah, I felt the same way. And I was like, but I'll tell you just from experience being out, there's times where I'm dealing with something, and I
Mhm.
remember that one thing that was just beating into my
Mhm.
head, and it helps me through that 1 hour or that one, you know, weak moment of like I want to
100%.
drink, you know,
Oh yeah.
and it's always like something that Tammy said just from like walking past her in the hallway.
Yep.
She'll just say some phrase. I still think
Mhm.
about phrases, and then
Oh yeah.
I used to dream about fucking one day at a time. Like I would have people in my
Yup.
dreams saying one day at a time.
Oh god, dude, I've heard it all. It's
And-
been drilled into my head,
Yeah,
all of them.
But it's so true, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if they didn't drill that in our heads, who knows? You know.
And that's what you need to tell those people in there. It's like, dude, there's a reason this is repetitive.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
because you need to really have this drilled into your head.
Yeah, and you really have to have people that have been through it be the ones that are telling you this stuff.
I remember being surprised when I found out like a lot of the people that worked there were also in recovery.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, well, because for me, because I want to become a counselor and work there or a place like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized helping, like the 12 step is, you know, you're basically just helping fellow alcoholics, giving
Yep.
your spiritual awakening, and
Mm-hmm.
and that truly is what keeps people sober. 10, 11, and 12. That's just maintain steps
Yeah.
or maintenance steps, I should say. And a lot of people that I remember, I would talk to Tim one time about that. I see him out at meetings sometimes.
Oh really?
Yeah, he goes to one in right by you. It's like down 5, like heading towards Mechanicsville that
Okay.
we were talking about.
Yeah.
And he was like saying how working there helps him. He
Sure.
loves seeing other people, you know, get sober and stuff, but
Yeah.
it truly does help his recovery too, because
Absolutely.
not
man.
only are you there for other people, but you're there for yourself, man.
You have to.
truly
It's
are.
like the one It's like the one time where you almost should be selfish.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to.
yeah. It's funny because when I did my 4-step, where you write down all the shit that you've done and your defects of character,
It's tough.
and a lot of it chopped up to just being selfish. I'm
Yeah.
very selfish, and
course,
and
man.
now I've talked to my sponsor about this. I was like, now I'm basically a selfish sober person.
Yeah.
I'm selfish for my recovery. I do things only with the intent of my recovery.
You have
so,
to
like,
put it first.
Yeah, so like if like I play a show, I have to be very cautious of who I'm playing with.
Mm-hmm.
That they understand that if I jet out right after the show, it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
They didn't suck or anything. I just wanted to get out of there
Yeah.
or whatever. Or like if there's like a drinking event that I know there's going to be drinking, I'll drive myself, go for 15 minutes, say my
Yeah.
highs, and then dip out.
Exactly.
You So I'm very selfish in that sort of way. But again, it's amazing.
It's
man.
okay to be selfish in that
Yeah.
way, though. That's like the only way you can. I mean, yeah, it's one thing that I found out the hard way, because you'll hear it when you're in there, but once you get out, is realizing that like there's a lot of people that really aren't like your friends,
No.
and you were just a drinking buddy, even if it's somebody you spent every weekend with.
Yeah.
Once you don't drink, they don't give a shit. I mean,
No,
you're
and
no longer their fun time.
And something I realized too is that a lot of people aren't as funny as you thought they were when you're sober.
Hell no. No. Yeah, a lot of people are actually really miserable to hang out with.
Yeah,
and you're like,
"Oh,
geez,
like,
man.
why did I like you so much?" And no offense to any people that I may be talking about, but it's just a matter of realizing the people that actually care about you and people that you benefit from just being
Yeah.
around. And I thankfully didn't have to cut a lot of people out of my life
Neither did I,
because
man.
I was the alcoholic.
Same.
It wasn't.
It was me.
Yeah.
I was the guy that was out of control. I wasn't like a group of people.
Yeah. To the point where my friends were like, "What? You're the guy?
Yeah.
You're the one."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy to think that when your friends find out that you were the one that had the problem, to them it seems like you're the one that always had it figured out. For me in my life, I was always the one that people can kind of fall back on. They can kind of trust to have their back no matter what. Can always be there with a listening ear and a helping hand. And when I got sober, I was so afraid of how people were going to look at me, how they were going to treat me when they see me out now. And it's been better than I ever expected. People respect me even more because I was able to nip this thing in the butt, and constantly I have people talking to me how proud they are of me and how proud that they can be of you if you continuously try and help yourself or help a fellow alcoholic. Yeah, again, man, I really appreciate you coming in and talking. I know with your busy schedule, it's tough to get this in, but I'm glad that you were first guy that I had to
Always make
kind of
time.
workshop this and just see what happens. But yeah, I just want to kind of close with where you are at right now with your recovery. Kind of what you do day to day to keep your cravings down, and yeah, just kind of how your life has been now, because like we said earlier, you still live life.
Mhm.
You still hang out with buddies, you still kind of do the same stuff that you were doing before,
Yeah.
just without the drink, and that can be really tough for a lot of people, but it's not as tough as staying at home doing nothing and
Yeah.
being afraid of the world, so
Mhm.
yeah, just give me a little bit of where you are now, bro.
So now is a lot better. Like I said, when I first got out, I did keep to myself, because I got out and then I realized that when you're in your late 20s, yeah, like everything you do, everything anyone does revolves in one way or less around drinking. You don't go and watch. You go and watch football at a bar. You go and play pool at a bar. You go to breweries. You go to wineries. I mean, that's what you do on weekends. So I did a lot of just working, keeping my head down, and just going home and just watching TV. And that's all I did for maybe the first month and a half.
Yeah.
Because I didn't trust my sobriety. I mean, I did, but I just didn't want to put myself in any kind of situation where I would be worried that I might want to take a drink.
I think that's very smart starting out too.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that. I mean, they drilled it in my head you need to be selfish and you need to protect your sobriety above every single thing else, even if that means telling your friends you can't hang out. But I'm really lucky to have very, very close friends. I mean, I've had a friend group of maybe 5 to 10 people that I've been really close with for, most of my adult life. And none of them are really heavy drinkers at all. I mean, obviously we go out, that's what we do, but I was the one that was just out getting destroyed every night.
Right.
And they're normal people, so they can go out to a bar and have 2 beers and play pool and then just call it a night.
Right.
So for them to not really go out and party, because one of the main things I was worried about when I got out was I hate being the reason that people don't have fun.
Yeah.
And then I realized that that's in my head, because in my head I think, okay, Labor Day weekend out on the boat, if no one's drinking, then they're not going to have fun. But nobody else is like that. They're not alcoholics like us, where they're well, I can't get hammered on the boat, then this is useless.
Right.
This is going to suck.
Yeah.
But in my head I think, oh, no one's having fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the case. Most people that aren't alcoholics can just have a good time. and figuring out how to do that once you get out is, I mean, crucial.
Yeah.
You know, figuring out. I mean, and we figured that out when we were in RCA.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, dude, we used to laugh harder
Yeah.
than I did when I was drinking.
and we would have conversations. I mean, every other night, like, dude, like this is the first time that I've realized that you can have a great time without drinking,
Yeah.
or without even having like a slight buzz. You can still enjoy life. So I went to like a good chunk of. I mean, I did the 90 and 90 when I got out for the first 2 months, and it like one thing you notice once you get out. I mean, it might be different around here, but like almost every AA meeting I went to, I was the youngest by like 30 years.
Oh, it's the same everywhere.
I was like, geez, man, like there are no meetings with like young people. I mean,
yeah, but honestly,
there are,
dude,
but they're far from it.
you don't want it that way, though, man.
Of course not. And honestly, I felt like I learned the most from the older guys.
Yeah.
You always will.
Because for me, I don't want to be. I learn a lot from the guys that are going through it with me, but I don't want to be in a meeting where we're all still trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
You know, because we're just gonna talk bullshit out of our
Yeah.
ass, and then in 2 months, whatever we said 2 months ago, it isn't even applying to what we're.
Exactly.
But with people that have like 13 years, 19 years, I just shut up and listen. You
They know what I mean. They made it,
Yeah.
so they must know something we don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, man, I've not been good about like going to in-person meetings. I would say almost daily I do Zoom meetings.
That's great.
Maybe like once or twice a week I'll go in person. I mean, I just moved, so I'm still shopping around and trying to find like a good meeting, because where I lived in Fredericksburg, the thing was like there was no consistent like meetings. Like it's not like, you know, one church like every day on, you know, at 7 p.m. like there's a meeting. It's like a completely different meeting at a completely different spot. And I mean, even the closest one was like 25, 30 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So when you include the hour meeting and the drive to and from, that's 2 hours after a, you know, 9-10 hour work day.
Right.
So it eventually started becoming a chore. But so after I did the 90 and 90, I definitely started doing Zoom. But like whenever I do Zoom, which is almost every night, I mean, I turn my phone off, I turn the TV off. I'm like fully engaged in it.
That's awesome.
But you know, some
It's
people will
still-
say it doesn't count.
I think it definitely counts.
I think it counts, but I don't think it counts as much.
I think it counts in a sense that you're still getting something from someone's story.
100%.
And you're still able to take an hour out of your day to sit and really just immerse yourself with recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was doing 90 and 90, because my job kind of took over, so I was only able to really do like 90% in 90.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I say. But
Which is a good chunk.
yeah, and there were times where, because I don't enjoy the Zoom meetings, so there were times where I would just put on like a recovery story on YouTube, and
Lots of
I
those.
I didn't count that as a meeting,
Yeah.
but I definitely still like immersed myself for an hour.
Absolutely.
In someone's story, or like I remember watching Rise and Demise, the Steve-O
Oh,
story,
God,
and
yeah.
like. And I've already seen it before, but it was like just that reminder of how crazy it really can get.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories like that, too.
Yeah.
With a lot of different famous people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, of course that's not a meeting, but, I mean, if you're getting something out of it, it's something.
You need to check out Matthew Perry's story that he just came out with.
Matthew Perry from Friends?
Yeah,
Really?
dude,
Is it good?
it's so good. He was on he was an alcoholic, but he also had a pill problem too.
Okay.
He got up to the point where he was taking 55 Vicodin in a day.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, and then with alcohol too, and I think it's on Hulu if you have Hulu.
I do.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. But dude, it's such a great story, and it's just an interview. He said he came and watched it. He came out with a book talking about it, and he said that you can kind of trace his trajectory of his alcoholism through the show Friends.
I'm sure.
If he's really skinny, he's high on drugs,
Uh-huh.
and if he's gaining weight, it's alcohol.
He's drinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty insane, man. But like you said, I mean, famous people come out all the time, man, and we just lost
Dude.
Aaron Carter. To
Dude, yeah. What, earlier this week?
Last week, I think.
Yeah, it was recently.
Yeah. And it's crazy, too, because I was just listening to a podcast with him on Steve-O's podcast.
Yeah.
And he was sober.
He was doing the rounds on a bunch of podcasts that week.
Yeah, I think he was doing, he was about to release an album or something like that. But
Yeah, so he's
yeah.
doing the press run.
But dude, it's crazy because, like, the thing that someone said to me one time, we'll get back to what you were saying. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
You're good.
someone said something to me where I was talking about how alcoholism and AA and stuff has been now more accepted than ever.
100%.
You know, and
Yeah.
like we have a mental health month now. Like I don't know if we've always had that, but yeah, it's now a thing. And I was like, and you hear celebrities, you know, coming out as alcoholics and they're in recovery and stuff. And this girl was like, yeah, but if they don't make it, that just basically says that our the AA doesn't work for you and all this stuff. And I was like, if one
No
of us
way.
doesn't make it, it could say the same thing. We're just not in the public eye.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the spokesman for AA.
Of course not.
Yeah, it's just another person telling their story. Like that's why I'm doing this. Like if one person can see that you could be sober and have a good time and just chill with a buddy, like that's all that matters, man.
And
you
it's so much easier than people realize.
yeah. I mean, I hate to say that it's easy, but I would say that it's nice.
It's not as hard as you thought it was.
Yeah, and now because we have the safety net around us, you know, we have the tools, we have the fellowship, the network.
The fellowship is a lot of it.
Yeah,
You know, having a group of people that are holding each other accountable makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so when it comes to like the steps and stuff, you haven't really dove into those yet, have you?
I had a sponsor down in Fredericksburg for maybe 3 months after I got out of RCA, and I moved away. We I guess broke up.
Yeah.
He just I felt like he like really was just doing it as a favor.
Yeah.
So like it was hard. You know, I would call him, he wouldn't answer. He'd call me back like 2 days later. Stuff like that. So we didn't even really work the steps. I mean, he tried to work me through like the first like 6 steps in like a weekend, and I was just like, I don't think this is how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, back then when they first started writing the AA book, they did their 12 steps in a night, but that's almost impossible, dude.
No
You know?
way.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's literally impossible if you do all of them.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, but yeah, I mean that's. Because I know people that don't have sponsors, that don't go to meetings, and the thing is like sobriety, to me, it's almost like a workout. It's almost like a diet plan. It's almost like there's things that work for you that doesn't work for me, and vice versa. You know,
Yeah.
but the bottom line is you have to stay sober.
Yeah.
And there's times where when you're in rehab or when you're in meetings, it's like, well, if you don't get a sponsor, you're gonna relapse.
Yeah.
Or if you don't do the steps, I mean, this old guy always says, if you don't do the 4th step, you'll end up with a 5th. Like basically saying you'll end up with a 5th of vodka or whatever. Which I think is true in some sort of ways if you're not strong enough. But I always hated the stigma of like, if you don't do what I did, you're gonna not be sober. That's just, I don't know. I never really understood that.
It's kind of stressful. I mean, it puts you in this this thought process where you're thinking, all right, well, if I don't do this to a T, then I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
That's the thing is there's a lot of preaching. It's hard to explain, but a lot is drilled into your head where they kind of tell you that, like, if you don't do this, then it won't work. And a lot of people use that as an excuse to just fuck off and give up.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them that out. I mean, dude, I'm sure there's people that we were in RCA with that didn't even touch a meeting that still might be sober.
Yeah, I know a few right off the top of my head. You
Yeah.
know, and it's one of those things. Like I said, it's your recovery.
Yeah.
And it shows that AA and meetings does work because there's millions of people that do it. And I needed meetings. I've always been the guy that kind of geared towards family and towards a team, and that's why like RCA was so cool for me, is because we had that 2B gang where all we did was just bullshit, watch stupid ass Marvel movies all day long, and you know, and I think that's why I think we were really lucky to go to RCA the time we did,
dude.
You know,
I mean,
it's almost amazing to think about how everyone that was in our little clique just clicked.
We were blessed, dude, because I mean, I remember some of the guys that got out even like a week after us that were just like, dude, it's like not even the same.
Yeah.
They're like,
exactly.
there's like, you know, there's like maybe one other person that I like smoke cigarettes with, and that's it. Yeah. So it's like it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, man. Well, I gotta say, you know, I'm very proud of you, bro. It's always nice to see you, and I can't stress enough how much you helped me in rehab and still do to this day, even though
you were my first buddy in rehab.
Same with you, man. I had some buddies, but you were the first one that I kind of was like, this is my dude.
Well, you saved me when I was when I first went into the cafeteria, because man, that was I was like, dude, this is like high school all over again.
Yeah.
I don't know who to sit with. It's gonna be awkward. But yeah,
I just remember we were all standing. I don't smoke cigarettes, but we were all standing around the little smoker area, and I see you like kind of just stumbling out, and you just had this vibe, dude. And I was like, this guy's. I wish I drank with that guy like a week
Dude,
before we got here.
I'll tell you what. If there's one thing that I met a lot of people in rehab that would have been a damn good time to drink with.
Oh my god, dude.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that is for sure. I want to close this real quick because I just don't get it, and a lot of people might get mad at me for this. Give me like the elevator pitch for the Grateful Dead.
Elevator
Because,
pitch for the Grateful
Dude,
Dead.
I can't get into it, and I don't know why. I'm a music head. I love all things music, but I don't know if I just missed the little opening for it. But
okay.
you are a crazy Deadhead.
Let me see. It's really hard to explain because I know it's one of those things where you almost have to experience live, and you can really only do that by seeing Dead and Company now.
And they're about to be done, aren't they?
I think, yeah. I bought tickets to their farewell tour, but they've, they're like Favre, like they keep coming back.
Yeah.
I would say that it's an entire experience every single time, and it's different every single time.
Okay.
They've never played the same set in a row ever. Nothing even remotely close to another one, and they played 200 days a year for
crazy.
40 years.
Wow.
Some of the most talented and flexible musicians probably in the world played all together for 30 plus years. I think that it really is just one of those, you have to experience it in person. And luckily almost every single Dead show has been archived online, so you can listen to it all. But I know that the whole thing started really with like the acid wave, so a lot of people like really clung on to that, like cult following because they experienced something that only music could really like help you experience.
For sure.
But for me, it's just, I love that it's different every single time. It's beautiful music. You can sing along to it. There's folky, like eras. There's jazzy eras. I mean, they went all over the place.
That's awesome, man.
So, I mean, it is one of those things where you either get it or you don't.
Gotcha.
Because some people just don't get it, and that's fine. I mean, like, if you put on like a Dead song, some people are like, dude, this is great, and other people are like, what the hell are we
I will say I've never heard a song was like, I absolutely hate this. But just seeing how big of a fan people can be, I'm like,
there's a reason, people, dude, when the Dead were like really touring in like the 60s and 70s, like, and they really had that cult following, dude, 80% of their fans were out in the parking lot, not even in the actual venues, and they were still following them from city to city.
That's what I've heard.
So, I mean, there was something there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I appreciate you coming, man.
Absolutely, dude.
Well, if I can, I'll try and play us out with some Grateful Dead. But, dude, good luck on the rest of your endeavors. I hate saying good luck because I know you got that shit. But,
we got this.
just continue to reach out. And
I'll stay in touch with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just call me every once in a while. And I'll have you back soon, man. Yeah.
I would love to, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to catch up with more of the guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, we could have a couple of us just all shooting the shit.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, guys. Well, there you have it. First installment of the Sober Hour podcast. And I am so grateful to have the means and the equipment and the friends and the fellowship to help me out with this endeavor that I never thought I would do. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about being creative. And why not be creative with my recovery? Cameron has taught me so much more than he could ever imagine. And day in and day out, every time I talk to him, I always learn something and always walk away with a laugh. He's a great guy. Please continue to listen to this podcast as more episodes will come to you. Thanks, guys.